The cold wind howled through the empty streets as the city lights flickered against the wet pavement. It was a quiet evening, and most people were already tucked away in their warm homes, safe from the biting chill of the night. But as Alexander Reed, a self-made millionaire, drove down the nearly deserted road, something caught his attention. Two little girls, no older than 7, sat huddled together on the sidewalk, their small bodies trembling from the cold. Their identical faces were streaked with tears, their clothes worn and tattered, and their tiny hands clutched each other, as if they were the only thing keeping them safe. Alexander's chest tightened at the sight. He had spent years building his empire, surrounded by luxury and success. Yet something about these girls stirred something deep within him. Slowing down, he pulled his sleek black car to the side of the road. The twins flinched as his door opened, their wide, fearful eyes meeting his. He crouched to their level, his voice gentle. "Hey there, are you lost?" The girls exchanged nervous glances, but said nothing. The older-looking twin, who had a small rip in her jacket, gripped her sister's hand tighter. "Where are your parents?" Alexander asked, scanning the area. There was no sign of an adult nearby, just darkness and the distant sound of traffic. Finally, the younger twin sniffled, her voice barely above a whisper. We don't have anywhere to go." Alexander's heart clenched. It was clear they were homeless. But how? And why? "Come on," he said gently. "It's freezing out here. Let me take you somewhere warm." The girls hesitated. Strangers were dangerous. They had learned that the hard way. But Alexander's eyes held something they hadn't seen in a long time: kindness. After a long pause, the older twin gave a tiny nod. He led them to his car, turning on the seat warmers as they settled in. The moment the heat hit them, the younger twin let out a small sigh, her tiny fingers rubbing against the warmth. Alexander watched them through the rearview mirror as he drove. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story. When they reached his home, a grand sprawling estate in the outskirts of the city, the twins' eyes widened. They had never seen a house so big. Alexander helped them inside, instructing his housekeeper, Maria, to prepare some food and find them warm clothes. As they ate, Alexander sat across from them, watching as they devoured the meal like they hadn't eaten in days. "My name is Alexander," he said softly. "And you too." The older twin wiped her mouth, her small voice carrying a mixture of hesitation and gratitude. "I'm Lily. This is my sister, Rose." "Beautiful names," he said with a smile. "Do you have anyone I can call?" "Family." Lily lowered her head. Rose shook her head quickly, her big blue eyes welling with tears. "No," she murmured. Alexander's heart ached for them. He wanted to ask more, but he didn't want to push them. Instead, he reassured them. "You're safe here. You don't have to be afraid." For the first time, the girls seemed to relax, their shoulders loosening as they finished their meal. Later, Alexander had Maria set up a guest room for them. It was cozy, with soft blankets and a warm fire crackling in the corner. As he tucked them in, Lily hesitated before whispering, "Thank you." It was just 2 words, but the weight behind them was heavy. Alexander nodded, ruffling her hair. "Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning." As he left the room, closing the door softly behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Who were these girls? Why were they alone? And most importantly, what had happened to their family? Determined to get answers, Alexander decided he would make a few calls in the morning. But first, he needed a moment to process everything. He stepped out for a breath of fresh air, his mind racing with possibilities. But when he returned to check on the twins, they were gone. The bed was empty. The blankets lay crumpled on the floor. The window, which had been shut tight, was now open. A cold breeze sweeping through the room. Alexander's stomach dropped. Where had they gone? And more importantly, why had they run? Alexander's heart pounded as he stepped into the room, his eyes scanning every corner. The twins were gone. He rushed to the open window, the cold night air biting against his skin. His estate was large, surrounded by tall trees, and a long driveway leading to the main road. Where could two little girls have gone in the dead of night? And why would they run? He grabbed his phone and called Maria, his housekeeper. "The twins are missing," he said urgently. "Check the security cameras." Within minutes, he was in his study, staring at the footage. The grainy black and white images showed the girls sneaking down the hallway, slipping out through the back door. They ran across the garden, disappearing into the dark woods beyond his property. Alexander's jaw tightened. What were they so afraid of? Grabbing his coat, he rushed outside. The wind howled through the trees as he made his way toward the woods, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Lily! Rose!" he called out, his voice echoing. No answer. He pushed forward, branches scraping against his arms, his heart hammering. After several minutes, he spotted movement near an old shed at the edge of his property. Slowly, he approached, careful not to startle them. Inside, the twins huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. When they saw him, Lily stepped in front of Rose protectively. "You don't have to run," Alexander said gently. "I just want to help." Lily's lips trembled. "You'll send us back," she whispered. Alexander frowned. "Back where?" Neither of them answered. Instead, Rose clutched Lily's arm, tears rolling down her cheeks. "We can't go back," she sobbed. Alexander knelt, softening his voice. "No one will hurt you here, but I need to know what's going on. Who are you running from?" Lily hesitated before lowering her gaze. "They'll find us," she murmured. A chill ran down Alexander's spine. Who was looking for them? And why did they sound so terrified? "Come inside," he urged. "You're safe with me." After a long pause, Lily finally nodded, taking Rose's hand. They followed him back, though their steps were cautious, their trust fragile. Once inside, Maria wrapped them in warm blankets and gave them hot chocolate. Alexander sat across from them, his mind racing with questions. "Tell me everything," he said gently. Lily stared at her cup, her small fingers trembling as she held it. "Our parents?" Her voice caught, and she took a shaky breath. "They're gone." Alexander's chest tightened. "I'm so sorry." She nodded but didn't look up. After they weren't with us anymore, we had to stay with someone else." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He wasn't nice." Rose shrank deeper into her blanket, her tiny hands gripping the fabric tightly. Alexander's stomach twisted. "Who was he?" Lily hesitated, her eyes darting toward the door, as if she expected someone to burst in at any moment. "Our uncle." A cold realization settled over Alexander. "Did he hurt you?" Lily didn't answer, but the way she swallowed, hard, the way she instinctively pulled Rose closer, said everything. Alexander clenched his fists. How could anyone harm two innocent children? "I won't let him take you," he promised. "No one will hurt you again." Lily's eyes flickered with something fragile. Hope. "But then," she whispered, "he'll come looking." Alexander sat back, his mind racing. If their uncle had legal custody, he could try to take them back. But Alexander wasn't about to let that happen. He needed to know more. He needed proof. The next morning, while the twins slept, Alexander made a few calls. He had connections, lawyers, investigators. people who could dig into the truth. Within hours, he had answers. Their parents had passed away in an accident a year ago. With no close relatives available, custody had gone to their uncle, a man with a history of financial trouble and questionable behavior. But there was no official record of the girls attending school, no doctor's visits. It was as if they had vanished from the system the moment he took them in. Alexander's gut twisted. Whatever had happened to them in that house, they had been completely alone. That afternoon, he sat with the girls again. "Do you remember where you lived before?" he asked. Lily hesitated, then slowly nodded. "A small house near the old train station," she said. Alexander decided to take a drive. He told Maria to watch the twins and left, following the directions Lily had given him. The neighborhood was run down, the kind of place where people kept their heads down and didn't ask questions. He parked outside a small, neglected house with boarded-up windows and a sagging roof. It looked abandoned. Knocking on the door, he waited. No answer. He was about to leave when a neighbor, a frail woman with graying hair, stepped onto her porch. "Young. Looking for someone?" she asked. Alexander nodded. "The man who lived here. Do you know where he is?" She frowned. "That man. He left a few days ago. Cops came by asking about him." Alexander's pulse quickened. "Why?" She glanced around as if making sure no one was listening. "Something about money. He was always in trouble." Alexander's jaw clenched. He knew it. The uncle hadn't taken them in out of love. He had taken them for whatever benefits or financial aid came with them. And now that trouble had caught up with him, he'd abandoned them, which meant Alexander's blood ran cold. If the uncle was desperate, he might come back for them. Not out of care, but out of greed. He had to protect them. That night, back at his house, Alexander kept a close eye on everything. He checked the security cameras, made sure all the doors were locked. But deep down, he knew if their uncle really wanted them back, he wouldn't ask, he would take. That night, Alexander barely slept. He sat in his study, eyes fixed on the security monitors, his mind racing. If the twins' uncle had truly abandoned them, he could be desperate enough to come back. Not for them, but for whatever he thought he could gain. Alexander wasn't going to let that happen. The house was quiet. The only sound the occasional crackling of the fireplace. But then, just past midnight, something flickered on the camera feed. A shadow near the back gate. Alexander's heart pounded. He leaned closer. A man was standing there, his figure barely visible in the dim glow of the security lights. He wore a hood, his stance tense. Alexander had seen that face before, on the documents his investigators had pulled up. The uncle. Alexander didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone and called security. "There's someone at the back gate," he said in a low voice. "Lock. Down the property. Call the police." He moved quickly, checking on the twins first. Lily and Rose were fast asleep, their small faces peaceful in the glow of the nightlight. He quietly shut the door and hurried downstairs, where his head of security, Davis, was already reviewing the footage. "He's trying to get in," Davis muttered. "Looks like he's testing the locks." Alexander clenched his fists. "Let him try." Minutes felt like hours. The uncle circled the house, moving toward a side window. Then, without warning, he pulled something from his jacket, a crowbar. He pried at the lock, but before he could do anything more, bright floodlights flashed on, and the alarm blared through the property. The man flinched, looking around in a panic. Then, footsteps. Security guards rushed in from all sides. Trapped, the uncle raised his hands, feigning innocence. Hey, I'm just here for my nieces," he shouted. "This guy took them. They're my family. Alexander stepped outside, his expression cold. You left them on the streets, he said. You don't get to call them your family. The man scoffed. They belong with me. You got no right to keep them. The police will decide that, Alexander replied, and right on cue, flashing blue lights appeared at the front gates. Within minutes, officers were pulling the uncle aside, questioning him. Alexander handed over the documents his investigators had found. Records of financial fraud, reports of neglect. The officers didn't need much more. The uncle was arrested. On the spot, as the police car pulled away, Alexander exhaled, the tension in his chest finally easing. The threat was gone. The next morning, the twins woke up to find Alexander sitting with Maria in the kitchen, the smell of fresh pancakes filling the air. Lily rubbed her eyes sleepily. Why does it feel different? She asked. Alexander smiled, softly. Because you don't have to be afraid anymore. Rose hesitated. Is he gone? Alexander nodded. He won't hurt you again. For the first time, the girls looked relieved, truly relieved. Lily reached for Rose's hand, squeezing it. So, what happens now? Alexander took a deep breath. That's up to you. I have lawyers working on making sure you're safe. But if you want, you can stay here. The words hung in the air. He didn't want to pressure them. But deep down, he already knew his answer. Rose's eyes widened. You mean, like a family? Lily looked up at him carefully, as if trying to see if he was serious. Alexander smiled. If you'll have me. There was a long silence. Then, Lily, cautious, careful Lily, stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Rose followed, burying her face in his chest. Alexander closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the moment. He had spent years chasing success, believing money was what made a life full, but now, holding these two fragile, brave girls, he realized something. Family wasn't about blood. It was about choosing each other,